Hi, everyone. This is Heather Vickery, and you've tuned in to this week's episode of the Brave Files podcast. You know, if 2020 taught us anything, it's that we're all really, truly capable of reinvention. Now, listen, this past year, reinvention was essentially forced on most of us, but for many folks I know, especially entrepreneurs, we finally pushed ourselves to do the things that we've long been putting off. And guess what? We surprised ourselves. I mean, look at all that we've accomplished in this last year. It's absolutely mind-boggling. For many of my clients, having a community like the Intentionally Brave Entrepreneurs program was game-changing. Even within our free Facebook collective that each and every one of you are invited to join us in, Brave on Purpose, we saw unprecedented growth and connection. Social media might be a pain in the ass, but we can all be grateful for the networking and connection opportunities it's provided. But 30 years ago, female entrepreneurs like today's guest, Kathi Sharpe-Ross, forged a path for themselves without the supportive communities we have now. These women had to work their asses off in really creative ways to establish themselves. And now, 24 years later, Kathi is still kicking ass. And you want to know her secret? It's reinvention and resiliency. Kathi navigates her life as a businesswoman with positivity, bravery, and tenacity. And she wants to share with you just how she's done it and how you can reinvent yourself. This is an excellent conversation. Get ready. Here we go.
Inspired, entitled, and passion.
This is Heather Vickery, and you're listening to The Brave Files, stories from people living courageously. When we choose bravely in big and small ways, it powerfully elevates our lives. I hope these stories connect with you and encourage you to embrace bravery in every possible way, day after day. Together, we can build a movement of courageous living that enriches both our lives and our communities. And if you enjoy the show, I ask you to please share it with others. Maybe think of someone who you want to choose bravely right alongside you. Thanks for tuning in. Now here's the show. Hey, everybody. I am so excited to introduce you to Kathi Sharpe-Ross. I have to give you a little bit of a background information here. I met Kathi through Podmax, which is a really fun podcasting event and community. And as I was researching her, and I knew I was going to have this opportunity to interview you, Kathi, I realized that we had one mutual friend in common. And that mutual friend just happens to be my sister, Robin. So shout out. Hey, Robin. So random.
Love that. What a small world. And the fact that I was interviewing her for my Reinvention virtual chat this week.
Yep, you were interviewing Robin.
So we were talking about you the other day.
Oh, hey, I'll have to go check that out. But Kathi, I just think you are such a neat person. You kind of very casually say, well, you know, I'm an entrepreneur. I've been a business owner for 30 years, a woman business owner. You know, there are a lot of them. Most of the people I work with are female identified business owners, but not for 30 years because this stuff is kind of new. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about your book, Reinvent Your Life, and what you're doing with your media stuff, because so many of the folks that listen to this show can't figure out exactly that, the reinvent. They can't figure out, they don't love where they are. They don't want to stay where they are, and they don't know what the answer is or the solution is. And I really want to chat with you about that. But can you tell me what it was like to be a woman entrepreneur 30 years ago?
Thanks for asking that question. It's funny. It doesn't come up a lot. And when it does, I marvel over the fact that in today's society, you're right, it is not unusual for a lot of women to take that very entrepreneurial venture. But 30 years ago, I mean, I was 24 years old when I started my business. I had no idea what I was doing.
Crazy.
I didn't think, oh, I am going to be a female entrepreneur and founder of a company. And I will tell you that there wasn't this network, there wasn't this female support system that exists today. And it was a very
Yeah.
different time and a very different culture. And, that it was a full on, men's world, if you will, in so many ways around so many businesses. I just knew what I wanted to do. And I didn't really care what was going on around me or what wasn't going around me or what the ground rules were. And may have something to do with the way I grew up, because I just sort of grew up traveling and living around the world with my family. And so to me, there were
That's
really
an interview too.
yeah, there were
That's
not a
whole
lot of
conversation.
parameters and boxes that I grew up kind of trying to live within. And I think for me, it was just like, oh, this is what I love. This is what I want to do. And I'm going to just go do it, and I'm going to take it, and I'm going to create it. And I just
What
did.
an awesome gift that is from your parents, from
Yeah.
your family. I almost never interview somebody who said, I never had any parameters. I could just always do whatever I wanted. It's crazy. It's wonderful. What an amazing gift.
I think it's made me the free spirit that I am.
Yeah,
I mean, to be living this way for 30 years, and I think it's given me a perspective that I realize that not everybody has.
for sure.
So, yeah,
Yeah, absolutely
pretty
for sure.
special.
And so you touched on something that I think is really important. There is wonderful community now. Women really far more often than don't support one another and reach out. And in areas, you interviewed my sister Robin, and she's in tech, and that's kind of new,
Yeah.
right? But it didn't used to be like that. It used to be like, there can only be one woman up here, and I'm going to stomp you and make sure you don't get up here. So how did you stay at the top? And tell me about that first business.
So I was 24. I realized that I had a real passion for people and connecting and communication, probably because throughout my childhood, I constantly I didn't have to, but we did move. I
Yeah.
had to make new friends. I had to sort of walk up to people and be the new girl on the playground and say, hi, I'm Kathi. Will you be my friend?
Right. That will teach resilience for sure.
Right. And so I very quickly became a connector and a people person, and kind of just figured out how to put myself out there and to create relationships. So that was sort of a very core part of who I became. And I think I just realized not wanting to work for somebody that's kind of free spirited nature
Yep.
made me want to be in a business that enabled me to do that. So I started a public relations company, and really kind of was just winging it, just kind of going with my gut, saying this is
Love
where I
it.
want to be, what I want to do, telling people this is what I thought I could do for them, and very quickly built this business. My husband and I got married 32 years ago, just in September.
Oh,
And
you were a baby.
I was a baby. And the funny thing is that that's when I started my business. So I signed a few clients and went on my honeymoon for 6 weeks with him, and came back to a full-fledged, a
Wow.
portfolio of clients, and just kind of took off from there, and kept growing and kept evolving and kept adding new disciplines to it, so that I could really stay immersed in things that I loved, and surrounded myself with people that would help me achieve those, that had that same passion and that same drive.
I love that. I think that is incredible. And so your business has sort of morphed or grown, transitioned into a media business, right? Can you speak to that? Why the change? And one of the things I loved when we chatted right before we started recording was there's a whole lot of brave in asking famous people, celebrity people to do this thing. And I love the gutsiness. I love the grit. Like, what's the worst thing that could happen? So
Yeah,
I would
exactly.
love to hear about
No,
that.
thank you. So what's really fun is that I've been able to maintain my company, which is the Sharp Alliance. It's a marketing, branding, business development, sponsorship agency with global clients. And that's what I've been doing for 32 years. But 10 years ago, I had this epiphany to write a book. And it was kind of based on this conversation, the fact that people were saying, wow, look at your life. You get to do all these great things. You're having a good time. You're making money. You're traveling. You've always got a smile on your face. What's that all about? And I realized that I was kind of living the life I want, but not everybody else gets to do that, or they don't think that they get to do that. And it was in that moment of dinner with a friend one night that I just said, I guess I just take for granted what I get to do every day. And I'm going to write a book about that. And that was kind of the moment. So
cool.
From that moment, I realized that there was a big conversation. There were people to talk to. There were stories out there. There were people who had reinvented. There were people who needed to reinvent. There were people on all different phases of the journey. And I made a list and I started researching and I started doing the work. And I realized there was a lot of conversation. And the really cool thing was that at the time I was representing a conference, a women's conference in New York called WE, which is Women, Inspiration, and Enterprise. And at the helm of that, for the very first, I think it was the first event, we had Ariana Huffington and Donna Karen, who were going to sort of be our core leaders for the weekend.
Yeah.
We had a dinner the night before, and I was sitting next to Ariana Huffington, and I said, I'm going to be writing a book about reinventing your life. I'd love to write an article. I mean, talk about being brave. You just kind of put it out there, and you have no idea what's going to come with that. I said, but I'd love to write an article for the Huffington Post. And she's like, oh, darling, of course you can. We're starting a reinvention section in 2 weeks. I was like, oh, of course you are. Great. So
a fair amount of luck in your life, I think, as well.
So within 2 weeks, I was blogging for the HuffPost, which now I am blogging and writing articles for the Thrive Global. But I started creating content and I started getting feedback and I started connecting on social media with all of this inspirational and very motivational content. So in that moment, I realized that there was a media company that I could build around this. So I created the Reinvention Exchange. And this became a place where people could connect, meet, share their stories, provide content about all these other great people and folks who could help people get to where they want to be. I'm not a life coach. I'm not a therapist. I am a business advisor, and I do that for companies every day, and I help them reinvent their businesses. But on that level, I wanted to make sure that people had the tools when they felt that little itch or that passion or that motivation. And so that's how the media company was born. And now we're doing a lot of things under that. And, releasing the book in March was just like a big catalyst moment for all of that too.
That is awesome. I can't wait to get my hands on the book. I didn't have enough time to get one.
Well, I will send you one. So please
you.
Send me your mailing address.
I will absolutely do that. We're going to link to it in the show notes. Everybody's going to want a copy, I know. Yeah. And you do have a live series.
I do. Yeah.
Tell us about your live series and how that came about.
This is my fun story, really. So the book was published March 7th. That was the debut of a book after 10 years in the making. And I will say to anybody out there that is dreaming about whether it's writing a book or anything else, just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And one day you will wake up and you will have a book in your hand.
Yes.
But it doesn't happen if you don't do all of that work. And I did not mean for it to take 10 years, but I was running a company, raising a family, and it just had to take its own course. And it was my journey. So it was great. So in March, when the book came out, clearly the very beginning of the pandemic, not the best time. I had, a dozen
book launch party out the window.
Exactly. March 27th in LA, not happening. April 15th in New York, cancel it. So on and on, I had to postpone, if you will, all of those events. And my whole strategy, and talk about reinventing. I had to reinvent the book launch plan in 5 minutes and say, what do I do now? This is going to be crazy. Now, the advantage I had was everybody was at home. Everybody was online. They were only a click away from being able to buy it. People had a little more time on their hands. So maybe reading another book might not have been a bad thing. And this was a book about reinvention and reinventing your life at a moment where people were being forced or maybe invited to do something like
the
really,
stars align for you.
So I'm like, okay, what do we do with this? So I've been on Zoom for years because of our business, and I was very comfortable with, a room with 40 people in it and creating content as we do for our clients. And, it's really great to launch a book and have an entire team working on it as your marketing team. So I turned to my team and I said, I think we should do a virtual book signing series of events, which turned into the Reinvention virtual chat. So originally it was 3 days a week. It was 2 weekdays and a Saturday because everybody was just sitting at home and couldn't leave their houses. And then as summer started to peek its head out, I said, this is not fair. Nobody wants to be on their computer on a Saturday, including myself. So then we scaled it back to 2 days a week. So we do that 2 days a week. I have incredible guests on there. And in my book, I feature 30 incredible stories of men and women and their journeys and their experiences in all, from all walks of life. So they've been on the show, and a lot of other folks who in my travels, I just meet so many people. I get a lot of emails and a lot of feedback from people who have amazing stories. And my whole philosophy is that I think people want to feel that if she can do it, I can do it. If he can do it, I can do it. So yes, I did interview some pretty amazing, real rock star type people, but it's the everyday people that most of us relate to. And so for me, it was more about putting folks like that and their stories in this book.
I love that. So who was the biggest ask? Like, which one made you sort of sweat a little when you made the ask?
Well, I'll tell you what was probably the biggest name that is attached to my book is the gentleman that wrote the foreword for my book, Quincy Jones.
Oh, wow. Good for you.
Okay. Awesome. And to have his name, I think you might be able to see right over my shoulder there, foreword by Quincy Jones. That to me was extraordinary. And not only because he's got a big name and everybody loves him, but I've had the privilege of working on multiple projects with him and his team. So that was a pretty special moment. And to know the man with that vision who had an appreciation for my perspective on how to live life. And he speaks to that in the foreword, and it's so beautiful. It just brought tears to my eyes when I got the foreword from him. Interview-wise, Diana Nyad, who is one of the most extraordinary athletes, women, businesswomen I've ever met. I had the privilege of also working with her years ago. And so I knew instantly that there was nobody that was more inspired, more motivational. This woman swam, if you don't recognize her name, from Cuba to Florida. Wow. And made headline news 5 years ago, I think it was. Forgive me if I'm getting the years wrong. But it was on her 5th attempt that she finally did it. So under the heading of never give up.
Right. Resiliency.
We're not just talking about, you had to have perfect weather conditions, perfect training, perfect currents. I mean, just every aspect. And she's written one of the most amazing books ever about her journey. She's done one of the best TED Talks ever. And she's just, from the moment that I met her, I felt like she was always sitting on my shoulder going, oh, really? You can't walk one more mile? Oh, really? You can't just do 10 more push-ups? Because how can you say that to somebody who has done what she's done with her life?
Absolutely.
So getting her to do an interview for the book, and of course asking her to be on the virtual chat and being a part of this conversation, that I feel like everybody needs a piece of someone like Diana and I in their lives. That's to remind them what's possible.
Yeah.
And what we're made of.
For sure. Yeah. We're made of so much more than we give ourselves credit for.
Exactly.
Which is one of the things I love about this show. Yeah. It proves that every week. So you have great connections. You know a ton of people. Was there anybody that you wanted to connect with that you didn't personally already have some interaction with, that you made a big ask?
Oh, that I made an ask of?
Yeah.
I made asks of a lot of people that I did not get to connect with. So I'm still working on those.
There you go. Gotta grow.
No, you know what? For everybody from my book were people in my circle.
Okay.
They actually were.
Well, I love that, because I think that we often, we think so pie in the sky, and we sometimes don't realize not everybody's backyard is as flourishing as yours is, illustrious as yours. But you probably know more people than you think you do
Yeah,
that can
that's very
help
true.
you grow and help you reinvent.
Yeah.
And I think about when I started this podcast, the very first person that I interviewed and aired was a former client of mine. He is the CEO of Equality Illinois. And the interview was just, first of all, the sound quality sucked so bad because we grow so much and we get better, we getting better. But the interview was spectacular. And little did we know what it would mean to be such a fierce social justice warrior. Even we thought we knew 3 years ago. We didn't know and what it was going to be like. So you know more people than you think you do. I love that.
I deal with that every day in business because frankly, in the line of business that I do, I go straight for the CEOs in most cases of companies. And so I do kind of spend my life, it's sort of what I've really done most of my life is how do I get to and have that conversation and talk to XYZ CEO about this business opportunity, this great partnership idea, this great program that my clients. So I've kind of made a living out of, just figuring out how to get to somebody, how to have the right conversation, how to really connect with people that have really, may not be in my inner circle.
Yes.
So it's not something that scares me.
I love that. I think it's great. It scares a lot of people, but really, truly, what's the worst thing that could happen? And the answer is nothing. They can say no. They can ignore me.
I'm waiting for Richard Branson to say yes to me to an interview. So
okay, there you go.
There's my bucket list. And I know about 5 people who know him. So, you know, we're going to get there. You can
get there. What a cool guy he is. I saw him keynote speak at a conference last year, and he's just fun. Yeah. So throughout all of this, 30 years of being a woman entrepreneur in a world where you had to work your ass off to stay at the top, which you've always done, what would you say has been the biggest struggle for you?
Which shoes to wear?
Man, I wish everybody could just have a little bottle of whatever it is you've got.
I mean, come on, you got to suit up every day. You've got to show up, being that person to feel and step into it, which is no joke. I mean, the shoes and the whole outfit and all of that. I just think, I don't know, I wouldn't say struggle. It's sort of been a journey of what do I want? How do I create it? What am I passionate about? And how am I going to build it? And it's not easy to be an entrepreneur. It's not easy to run a business. And while you're working on the existing business, constantly looking at where your 3-month pro forma and your 6-month pro forma and your 1-year pro forma is going to be. So you're probably 24/7 consumed. And maybe that is the struggle now that I voiced that.
There's kind of always a struggle, even when you're as golden as you are.
And it's not, it's always been hard work. 24/7. But when you love what you do, you don't think of it that way. So I've made a point of always working on clients and business that I enjoy, that I personally am connected to. It doesn't mean it's not hard work, but at least if it's 2 a.m. and I'm up working on something, I like the people I'm doing it for, and I like the business that I am working on. And I've always been very protective of myself to make sure that that is in fact the case. There have been financial struggles. There have been times where you just kind of wondered whether you were going to have to close the company down because where was the next business going to come from? But you push through it. You connect with more people. You put yourself out there. You start to have more conversations. And all of a sudden, the universe kind of opens up, or, the opportunities present themselves because you are talking to more people. Yeah. And you have to be very deliberate about that. And you can't just sit back and hide under the covers and say, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? No, you have to go out there and say, hi, everybody, I'm here. That's me on the playground when I was 8 years old. Hi, I'm the new girl. So maybe that's where that's come in handy. Yeah. So it's a grind. It's a grind. It's a 24/7. And I think the inability to turn it off is not so much a struggle, but it is something that it is always with you. Yeah. And you've got to really learn how to find that crazy, silly word balance. It's not balance, but to find space.
To feel harmony for yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. And to create those moments. Like last night, 5 o'clock, I was on this crazy phone call negotiating a deal. Someone on the other end of the phone was being just a little adversarial. And my team and I are on the phone and they're texting me saying, don't you have to leave? I was getting dressed while I was talking to them in my workout clothes, going, I am not forfeiting this. And I made it from my house to the beach in 20 minutes, where I did a sunset dance class with headphones, if you've ever heard of a silent disco.
I love that.
And
I want to go to there.
Danced on the beach at sunset to the best music at a dance class with headphones on for an hour and a half. And you've got to take, you've got to, I could have been a victim of, oh, I was stuck on the phone and I had this thing and I couldn't leave. And no, I was like, these folks are not getting in the way of this conversation.
Yeah.
I mean,
make it work.
That class. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, make it work. Oh my gosh, I love that. There's so much in that. I mean, from your childhood where you could have just been a wallflower, but you did. That's not who you wanted to be. It's not who you are. I mean, obviously you're born a connector and energetic and communicator and gutsy. And some folks are born that way and some folks aren't, although I think you can all learn it. I really, truly believe that.
I do too.
But just that reminder that you have to ask for it. You have to go after it and get it. It is not going to show up if you just sit there and think about it. So dreaming is good, planning is good, but you've got to get into action.
Exactly, 100%. 100%. So that I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that is the one thing. And people sort of like they dream of things, they think of what they want to do, but you have to be able to action those plans. But the challenge comes from many people saying, okay, yeah, I'd love to do something new in my life. It doesn't have to be a huge pivot, but it might be adding a layer of something else that's going to nurture your soul in your life. But I don't know what I'm passionate about. I don't know how to do it. So those are the moments that I think a lot of people struggle. Once they've woken up to the idea, and they've kind of felt that gnawing at them, that there must be something else. I mean, come on, we all look at social media and go, oh, I wish I had that life. Oh, I wish I could do that, right? But you've got to listen to that. You've got to listen to what is it in your life that is making you look at somebody else's and kind of wishing you had a little of that too. So it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with your life, but it does mean that you're aspirational, you're curious, you're a dreamer. So that means it's time to start tuning into that voice. Yes. It's time to listen. It's time to be aware, self-aware, and to know that you're entitled, to have whatever you want in your life. So as long as you don't blow up the life of everybody else around you while you're on that mission, you can pursue what you want, and you just have to figure it out. And I have 26 actionable power tools in my book that help you on that journey to start really figure that out.
It's so entitled was one of your 3 words, and
a big
it's
one.
An interesting
it's such a big
word choice. But what I love is that you have reframed that word. Yeah. When we hear the word entitled, like I don't know about most people, I bristle. I'm like,
that's so rude.
Entitled people. Like I want to, it's gross and it reeks of privilege and all of these things. But what I'm hearing you say is every one of you is entitled to a life that you enjoy, a business you're proud of, activities that you want to experience, whatever it is you want, you are entitled to that. It isn't something you're born with. It's something, it's not like being fed with a silver spoon. It's your right as a human.
Exactly. And you're right. Yeah. I kind of reframed the word and I think it's a conversation starter in a way, because sure it is. People kind of react to that word. It's like even in the title of the book, what are you waiting for? It's making you stop in your tracks and just kind of go, whoa, wait, what? Yeah. You're not going to just gloss over you. It kind of forces you to think about what that means and who you are and what you want in your life.
Yeah. I love that. I love it so much. So I am curious to know, it sounds like from this brief conversation, from what I've learned about you in the last few days, is that you live life in a really big way, really fully, despite the fact that you have this wonderful, thriving business, that you work, as you just self-proclaimed, crazy hours all the time. How do you celebrate when you launched your book, when you land a big client or an interview, when you just survived a day that sucks? How do you celebrate?
A really good glass of tequila on the rocks.
Yeah.
Many deep breaths. I think it's really important just to be in the moment and really appreciate the things that happen, that you've created in your life that give you joy.
Yeah.
Loving and hugging and kissing my husband.
Yeah.
Sharing with my friends.
Oh, I like that. That's a wonderful way to celebrate.
And I have a sister that I'm super close with, and usually she's my first, like, hi, guess what? Guess what happened? Or
Yeah.
I got this client, or I just got asked to do this interview for the book, or, this, that, or sharing with my friends, but not in a look at me way, but in a way that just shares the joy. And
celebratory.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's really sweet. I think I've surrounded myself with a network, my crew, as my girlfriend say, of people.
I call it a personal board of directors.
Exactly.
But yeah, same thing.
Exactly.
I love it.
And and we do that for each other. I've got a lot of group texts, and it's just really fun to sort of have that and to appreciate the joy that we share in each other's successes. And I think that goes back to the very first question you asked about, being a female founder and kind of being alone in the world back then as a woman in business. There wasn't this sense. I mean, we all had our friends, but I think now it is the most extraordinary thing to be supportive of other women and to bring them up and to pay it forward. And I've been mentoring young women through my business for 30 years.
I love it.
And it's just such a beautiful feeling. So yeah, I think it's about celebrating each other's joys.
Yes.
When we have these moments, and
I have a blog post out that's called Joy Shared is Happiness Returned.
Oh,
and I really love that you said that, because some folks don't share because they think they're bragging, like you said, but it isn't about that. It's about bringing people into your joy, and it multiplies.
It does. Yeah.
So I love it. Do you have a gratitude practice? I have written 2 books on gratitude, and it's one of my favorite things to talk about. Do you have a gratitude practice?
I don't have a specific gratitude practice. I have to say that I probably use the word gratitude in my life, and the word grateful is probably in my vernacular 10, 15 times a day, because I'm so aware of that sense, that feeling, that appreciation. I can say that before I go to sleep at night, every night, I really kind of take a moment. I take stock of what my day was and what tomorrow will bring and what I want to accomplish. I wake up ready to jump out of bed with joy, like every day. I mean, we all love to sleep in, and I don't do that very much anymore, but there is so much I want to do, that the moment I know I'm awake, I'm like, oh, great. Like, I don't need to be sleeping anymore.
That's wonderful. Oh, that's the dream for everybody.
Yeah. I try to walk every morning if I can, especially living in LA. The weather's beautiful, so most of the time that's doable. And just sort of breathe in kind of the day. And it's funny, my mom, part of my history, and probably why I have some of the balance that I have in my life, is my mother was teaching yoga when I was 3 years old.
Wow.
So I've kind of grown up with a lot of spirituality in my life, my whole life. So I almost take for granted that it's just kind of a part of me.
I love that.
I mean, I do yoga and I do a lot of other things.
Yeah. That self-care piece is huge. The dancing on the beach just sounds amazing. I'm going to have to find that where I'm in Chicago. We have a beach. It's been closed all year because of COVID, but we have a beach. That is absolutely beautiful and wonderful. And if you would like to have a deeper gratitude practice, I'll send you one of my gratitude journals in exchange for your book.
Yes. Oh, how fun. Thank you. I would love that.
All right. So as we get ready to wrap, we have a kind of a time frame here. I get to ask a question that is really near and dear to my heart. And you said this when you talked about mentoring people and helping people and supporting people. I deeply believe in giving back, in supporting other people in a global way. I think it changes everything. And so what is your favorite charitable organization to support?
So I've been a part of an amazing organization called Cure Duchenne. And Duchenne is a form of muscular dystrophy that affects young boys primarily, in their sort of early years, mid, probably around 7, 8, 9 is when it really starts to affect them. Very few of these boys get to live beyond the age of 15 or 20 years old.
Oh, that's
and
heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking. And this came to light for me because one of my son's best friend's younger brother had it.
Okay.
And when I got to know the family because of the boys' friendship, and found out, I just raised my hand knowing she had a son and they were living with this as a family. And I raised my hand. I said, this is what I do for a living. This is who I know. What can I do? And I started to integrate them into all these incredible events. I was involved with Super Bowl and huge brands and all these amazing things, and got very involved in work with Cure Duchenne. So for me, it's not just, and I'm involved with a lot of charities as far as support and all the things I believe in that we need to do to make the world a better place. But this is one that just, as a mother, really just sort of hits home. And so that's been one that I've done a lot for.
Thank you for sharing that. They will be our charity of the week.
Thank you.
And we'll give them lots of love. So listeners, you're used to this. You hear me ask you for this every week, but get to know them. Learn what they do. Give a like, a share. If you have money to give, do that. Just time, anything at all. This is how we grow, and we are better off when we grow together. So I love that. Kathi, would you share your 3 words with us one last time?
My 3 words are inspiration, entitled, and passion.
Yeah, absolutely. They're beautiful. I mean, I think without a doubt, you are inspired and driven and resilient and motivated. I love that we got to talk about entitled, because I just think that is like a fantastic part of this conversation. I'm totally going to use it and credit you and share it, because it's, I love anything that allows us to reclaim a word that once made people feel icky. I mean, I'm a member of the LGBTQ community, and we feel that way about the word queer, right?
Right.
And I have a I have a good friend and client who is trans and grew up super religious, and they have reclaimed the word Christian. They're like, they can't tell me anymore that I don't belong, right? Yeah. And so I love that. Like, it's such a
it's a powerful
so rebellious
thing. Yeah, exactly. There you go. That's exactly what it is. I'm like, really? You're going to tell me that? I mean, I have a chapter heading really quick. I'll tell you, one of my chapter headings is, it's not a midlife crisis. It's a cry for reinvention.
Oh, yeah. So I call it a midlife catharsis. Like, we are ready to come out of our shell. We're ready.
Yeah.
No more fucks to give.
Well said.
I love it so
exactly.
much. Kathi, how can people find you or connect with you if they are dying to know more or get in touch?
Thank you. The best way is probably to go to the reinventionexchange.com. Everything about my book is there, background on myself, and being able to connect with me and sending me emails. I'm on social media for everything: Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook, and either both under Kathi Sharpe-Ross or Kathi SR, or the Reinvention Exchange, but all of that can be found on the website. So it's probably the best one-stop shop to find me. My agency is the Sharpe Alliance. We have a website for that as well. And my book's available on Amazon and Apple, both ebook and paperback. So,
awesome. Well, I cannot wait to read it. I know everyone else is going to want to grab a copy.
Thank you.
So go out, you all. This is just a really lovely reminder. And I say this a lot. You are not stuck unless you choose to be stuck. And, the universe presents things to us in kind of strange and miraculous ways. And when you're ready to reinvent yourself, you now have some tools and resources to do that. You get to dream big as long as you're willing to take big action. So thank you so much for being here with us, Kathi.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the conversation and love meeting you and connecting with you.
I loved meeting you
Thank
too.
you.
It's great. Well, I hope we can stay connected.
For sure.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Listeners, thank you for being here. I want to remind you that if you like the show, and I hope that you do, please do me a favor and go ahead and subscribe, rate, and review on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you like to listen. And equally as important, share it with a friend. If you hear something and it makes you think of somebody, send them that link so that they can enjoy it. And I just want to remind you today and every day to go out and choose bravely. Thanks so much for listening. This is Heather Vickery. Hey friends, I want to share something really exciting with you. We already know you enjoy listening to podcasts because you're listening to this one, but I'm also betting you enjoy audiobooks. And hey, listen, if you don't already enjoy audiobooks, then it's time to check them out. That's why I'm really excited to share Libro.fm with you. They are an incredible new platform for listening to audiobooks. And by choosing Libro.fm over other audiobook services, you are supporting a local bookstore of your choice and investing in your local community. Libro.fm offers over 150,000 audiobooks via their primary platform, which, by the way, they built with love and from scratch because they're a small business also. They even offer bookseller recommendations for great audiobook options. You can sign up right now via www.vickeryandco.com/LibroFM. That's vickeryandco.com/LIBROFM. And when you do, you'll get one free audiobook of your choice, and the proceeds will go to your favorite local bookstore. Now, check what I just said there. You're going to get a free book, and the proceeds are still going to go to your local bookstore because Libro.fm makes sure that their booksellers get paid even when they give a promo to customers. I've listened to over 20 audiobooks this year alone. I especially love listening to memoirs read by the author, and it feels great knowing that all of my purchases support my local bookstore, The Book Table, in Oak Park, Illinois. Libro.fm. The same audiobooks, the same price, but a completely different story. Check them out right now at vickeryandco.com/LibroFM. Have you ever thought about starting a podcast? Maybe you've had this thought and then quickly shut it down because who has the time? Or you don't know how, or gosh, it just all seems too hard. If you have something to share with the world, we want to encourage you to get your message out. The world needs to hear it. Did you know that 50% of all homes are podcast fans? If you've ever wondered about having your own podcast or how it can increase your business or get your message across, then please join me and the other experts from the Podcast Power Academy for our monthly free Q&A session. It's called So You Want to Start a Podcast? This casual live conversation will help you understand how podcasting can be a great decision, why now is the best time to get started, and how to get into action with it. Visit podcastpoweracademy.com to learn more. You've been listening to The Brave Files, stories of people living courageously. To learn more about the show, find our show notes and full episode transcripts, or to get some great bonus content, visit thebravefilespodcast.com. And we would love to know what you think of the show. You can give us a call at 312-646-0205. Let us know your thoughts on the episode, the show in general, or maybe share with us how you're out choosing bravely. This episode is brought to you by Vickery & Co. Success Coaching. Coaching that helps you maintain a life well lived and a business well run. Learn more at vickeryandco.com. Our music was created and produced in a custom collaboration with Matt Lewis from ML Creative Consulting, a boutique firm dedicated to helping clients identify their unique sound and amplify their brand with custom delivered soundtracks. We couldn't do any of this without our extraordinary audio engineer, Andrew Olson. Learn more about him and check out his work at findandrewolson.com. And special thanks to everyone on Team Brave, from our producers, associate producers, copy editors, writers, and support team. Special thanks to Molly, Mary, Kim, Sabra, and Sabrina. I'm your host and executive producer, Heather Vickery. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week.